Hey guys, in today's video, we're going to talk about these cheap raised metal beds we bought off of Amazon. Now on Amazon, you'll see these being sold by multiple different companies, all with different names, but they all use these same stock images that you'll see here. There's a couple different sizes and color choices. The color that I chose was gray, which the company that I bought off of, they spelt it Gary, as you can see here. But that color, it's called gray, but to me, it's more of like a taupe, like a brownish gray. I bought both the 8x2x1 and the 8x4x1, and I paid $53 and $58 for those. I did notice that the prices on these seem to fluctuate pretty wildly, so this is something that you'll want to put in your cart and keep an eye on just to see how low the price goes. I think right now they're asking $70 for them. So we've put together several of these over the past couple of months. We have quite a few left before our garden area is complete, but overall, it's one of those things you get what you pay for, but for the most part, we're pretty happy with our purchase. Putting them together is not bad at all. It takes maybe an hour. The only tools you need are a Phillips screwdriver and a 7 wrench. They provide lots of extra nuts and bolts. There's only one part of the build that is really tedious and annoying, and that is due to the fact that every single piece of metal is covered in this thin piece of plastic. So you have to peel it off from side to side, and it rips on you, and it's just a pain in general. This part takes probably the longest out of any. And so once you get past this point, it's not too bad. It's just annoying getting this plastic off. Other cons, the metal, it's pretty thin, it's fairly flimsy. The only bracing is in the center there to keep it from bowing out, but there's no bracing like on the corners or anything, so it is not very rigid at all. Supposedly it's supposed to be made out of galvanized steel, but as you can see on the corners here, that metal is exposed, so there is a little bit of rusting going on there, but from what I can see, there's no other rust anywhere else, but these have only been out for a couple of months, so that's going to have to be reassessed. And this might not be a con for you depending on your configuration, but since the corners jut out, you can't bump up too flush against each other like this. So as you can see, there's that gap there. If yours are going to be standalone, it's not a big deal, but for me, I wish they weren't like that. So now I want to talk about how we're filling the beds up for cheap with the help of these guys. So we're doing kind of a version of hugelkultur. I'm probably not pronouncing that right, but we're going to start off with this nice pile of half-rotted wood. So this pile's been accumulating for a couple of years. This is just where we toss all of our rejects as we're splitting wood for our wood stove. And as you can see, these pieces, they're still pretty solid, but there's definitely some decomposition that has started. They're covered in like mold and fungus and moss. So these are going to be great additions to fill in that bottom space. And what these are going to do is they are just going to slowly break down. They're going to create heat and just provide a slow release of nutrients down at the very bottom of these beds. And you want to think an 8x4 area would be that big, but you'll find as you're filling these raised beds, stuff does not go as far as you would hope. So we've actually used up the majority of this pile so far, and we haven't even set up all of our raised beds yet. So it definitely takes a lot of material to fill these beds, so to do it as cheap as possible is always a great idea. So here is our completed wood layer. As you can see, it's really only one layer and it takes up about the bottom third of these raised beds. We didn't want it to be any higher than that just in case these don't break down all the way by the time planting season comes around. I wanted the plant's roots to be able to get around them. We do have about 6 months from now to planting time for 2022. So the next layer is going to be a mixture of hot manure and compost. This beautiful compost is horse manure that's been sitting out for a little bit less than a year, and it has little rocks in it from our sacrifice area, but look how nice and dark that is. And we cleaned out our chicken coop, so we're going to go ahead and toss that in as well. This is going to be a combination of pine pellets, straw, and chicken manure, which straw always takes a minute to break down, and chicken manure is always very hot. So this will probably be the only time that we add the chicken bedding. If we need to top off the beds any closer to spring, we'll probably just stick to using either that already composted horse manure, or we'll use our rabbit's manure. And that's just to keep from adding anything that's too hot, too close to spring. Another totally free resource that I can't believe I've never used on our property before is pine needles. So every fall we have these beautiful white pines that just shed a absolute ton of needles everywhere, and we've always just left them, but this year we're going to go ahead and rake them up, and we're going to integrate them in the middle of our compost and also use it as a mulch on the top. Some people like to use straw as a mulch instead, but we like to save the straw for our animals. So if this is free and it'll do the same thing, we'll go ahead and toss it in. For the very last layer to top it off at the beginning of spring, we bought these bags of organic garden soil by Beyond Pete. We bought these on clearance at Walmart at the end of summer. They're originally $9 a bag, which is insane. We got them for $3 a bag, which is still stupid expensive. So yeah, having all this extra layers to fill these beds up makes a huge difference, guys, because there's no way we could have afforded all that soil. So yeah, that's how we've been putting together this metal raised bed garden for as cheap as possible. Are these top-notch, highest quality ever? No, but I do think they'll get the job done. So thank you guys so much for watching. If you like this video, give it a thumbs up. Be sure to subscribe, and we'll see you in the next one. Stay warm.